Imagine losing everything, not slowly, not over time, but all at once. Your children, your wealth, your reputation, your health. Imagine waking up one morning respected and going to bed that same day buried in grief. And then, as if that wasn't enough, imagine heaven being silent. No answers, no explanations, no relief, just pain. This is not a story meant to comfort you quickly. It is not a story designed to wrap suffering in neat conclusions. The story of Job is disturbing, unsettling, uncomfortable, because it dares to suggest something we don't like to admit, that faith does not always shield us from pain, and righteousness does not guarantee ease. Yet somehow, within this unbearable weight, Job discovers a strength that defies logic, a resilience that cannot be explained by optimism, a faith that survives without answers. This is not a story about why people suffer. This is a story about how to endure when suffering refuses to explain itself. We live in a world obsessed with speed, fast food, fast internet, instant replies, immediate solutions. Pain in our culture is treated like an error code, something to be fixed, something to be silenced. When something breaks, we replace it. When something hurts, we numb it. When something feels uncomfortable, we avoid it. And so, when suffering enters our lives, we instinctively expect quick answers from God. Why is this happening? When will it end? What did I do wrong? How do I fix this? We pray, not for transformation, but for termination. We want the storm to stop. We want the pain to pass. We want life to return to normal. But Job's story dismantles this expectation because Job does everything right and everything still falls apart. Job is described as blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. This is important. The Bible goes out of its way to tell us Job's suffering is not punishment. And that alone shatters a dangerous myth we often believe, that pain is always the result of personal failure. Sometimes we suffer because we make choices, but sometimes we suffer simply because we are human. Job loses his livestock, then his servants, then his children, and still he worships. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But then the suffering deepens. His body becomes a battlefield. Boils cover his skin. Pain becomes constant. Sleep disappears. Relief vanishes. And then his wife speaks the words many of us think but are afraid to say, "Curse God and die." Not because she is cruel, but because despair has exhausted her. And Job responds, not with denial, but with truth. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? Notice something crucial here. Job does not say suffering is good. He does not pretend pain is pleasant. He does not spiritualize his agony. He acknowledges reality. Faith does not require pretending things are okay when they are not. Then come the friends. And this is where the story becomes painfully familiar. They sit with Job in silence for 7 days. And for a moment, they do the right thing. Silence. But then they speak, and everything breaks. They begin to explain his suffering, to analyze it, to diagnose it. They insist there must be a reason, a cause, a hidden sin, because the idea that suffering can exist without explanation terrifies them. If pain is random, then anyone is vulnerable. So they protect themselves with theology. Bad things happen to bad people. Good things happen to good people. If Job is suffering, then Job must be guilty. And here is one of the most painful lessons in the book of Job. People often prefer a wrong explanation over an honest mystery, because mystery is unsettling. Job listens, and then he speaks. He doesn't curse God, but he does something equally bold. He questions, he laments, he cries out, he protests, he demands an audience with God. This is not rebellion. This is relationship. Faith that never questions is not faith. It is fear disguised as obedience. Job refuses shallow answers. He refuses spiritual cliches. He wants truth. And this is where many people misunderstand Job. They think endurance means silence, but endurance does not mean suppressing pain. Endurance means staying present in the struggle even when it hurts to stay. Job's prayers are raw. He says things we are often afraid to say out loud. Why was I born? Why does God hide his face? Why is justice delayed? And yet, Job never lets go of God. He argues with God, not away from him. That distinction matters. Faith is not proven by calm words. It is proven by refusal to walk away. Then, after chapter upon chapter of silence, God speaks. but not in the way we expect. God does not explain the suffering. God does not justify the pain. God does not answer the why. Instead, God reveals himself. He speaks of creation, of oceans and stars, of systems beyond human understanding. And in doing so, God reframes the question, not why are you suffering, but do you trust me, even when you don't understand? This is not dismissal. It is perspective. God is not minimizing Job's pain. He is expanding Job's vision. And something profound happens. Job does not receive explanations, but he receives presence. And presence changes everything. Here is the uncomfortable truth the book of Job teaches us. Some questions do not have answers, at least not answers we can comprehend. But lack of explanation does not mean lack of purpose. We often confuse understanding with control. We think if we know why something happens, we can survive it. But Job survives without knowing why. Because endurance is not built on clarity, it is built on trust. Job eventually says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." This is not about vision, it is about intimacy. Suffering stripped away shallow faith and replaced it with something deeper. Job's faith matured, not because pain is good, but because pain exposed what faith truly was. And then, Job is restored. But notice this, the restoration does not erase the suffering. The children Job lost are still gone. The pain still happened. The scars remain. This matters, because God does not pretend pain never existed. Restoration is not denial of loss. It is redemption beyond it. So what does Job teach us here now in 2026? First, suffering is not always a sign of failure. Sometimes it is simply a sign that we are alive in a broken world. Second, faith is not proven by having answers. It is proven by staying engaged when answers are absent. Third, God's silence is not abandonment. Sometimes silence is space for transformation. Fourth, endurance is not passive, it is active trust. It is choosing to remain even when leaving would be easier. If you are suffering right now, if you feel like prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, if God feels distant, you are not weak, you are not faithless. You are standing exactly where Job stood. And the fact that you are still here, still breathing, still seeking means your story is not over. Pain does not disqualify you. Doubt does not disqualify you. Questions do not disqualify you. Giving up does, and you have not given up. The story of Job is not about why we suffer. It is about how to endure when suffering refuses to explain itself. It is about holding on, not because life makes sense, but because God remains worthy of trust, even in the silence, even in the ashes, even when nothing feels fair. If this message spoke to you, if you're walking through a season that feels heavy, share this with someone who needs strength right now. Sit with it, reflect on it, let it breathe in you. And if you want more teachings like this, deep, honest, and unfiltered, subscribe to the channel. You are not alone, and endurance is still possible, even here, even now.